What do we want? When this question rings out in the middle of Times Square, where LED billboards sparkle like an artificial galaxy, it seems everyone awakens, questioning a city that never sleeps. New York, the city of opportunity, where skyscrapers pierce the clouds, the sound of car horns and the soundtrack from a string of trendy bars blend into an urban symphony. But have you ever noticed the cold wind whistling through the makeshift tents lining the sidewalks? Or the damp, mildewed smell of nylon beneath the subway stairwells? Beneath that glamorous veneer, roughly 80,000 people in 2025 have nowhere to call home. They are the early morning sanitation workers, the office temp on a short-term contract, the lone victims of an unexpected economic shock. When the average rent for a single bedroom has soared to $3,500 per month, they have no choice but to curl up under thin blankets on park benches. Have you ever wondered, behind the doors of those luxurious apartments, how many dreams lie forgotten? While the New York government and charities are actively rolling out assistance programs, the homeless population keeps rising day by day. In a city dubbed the City of Dreams, stand aside from this crisis? Today's video will guide you deep into the numbers, the silhouettes, and the stories behind the neon lights, so that we might again ask, what do we truly want? No one. The state of homelessness in New York. According to the New York Homelessness Commission's 2025 report, the city's homelessness crisis has reached an unprecedented level, with nearly 80,000 people wandering its streets. Of that number, over 40%, more than 32,000 individuals, lack a fixed place to sleep each night, forced to seek shelter under brittle sheets of nylon, tattered old blankets, and even makeshift cardboard boxes under overpasses. Each morning, New York wakes to a contrasting tableau of rich coffee aromas drifting from street kiosks and thick exhaust fumes, of warm yellow lights from upscale bars and mold-stained blankets left to bake under the first rays of sunrise. Manhattan, the financial and cultural heart, is under the most intense pressure. Along 7th Avenue and around Times Square, where throngs of people check in non-stop and gigantic LED screens blaze, dozens of tents stand shoulder to shoulder, forming a makeshift dark city amid the center of light. On the gleaming granite sidewalks, the hunched backs of the homeless shiver beneath flimsy windbreakers. Under the 42nd Street subway station, the rough, spiked, cracked concrete floor becomes a nameless bed, and the rumble of passing trains sounds like some indifferent alarm clock, rudely waking a dream extinguished long ago. It is not just Manhattan. The Bronx, already burdened with hardship, now resembles a labyrinth of homelessness. Narrow alleys fit only a single handcart, walls coated in moss and rust-patched tin sheets crudely nailed over windows. The heavy stench of mildew mingles with greasy oil smoke from roadside donut stands, forming the soundtrack of deprivation and cruelty. Meanwhile, in Brooklyn, many single-parent families squeeze together under a single thin blanket, alternating between the cries of children calling for their mothers and the blare of home security alarms. Cramped rental apartments with cracked walls and leaky ceilings feel as if they might collapse when it rains, forcing residents to pack and move again and again. Each round of land clearances for redevelopment tosses them once more into the search for a new shelter, a never-ending cycle. Amid modern skyscrapers of silver glass, this spectacle shocks any who witness it. There are people who have nowhere to return to after a hard day's work. They seek warmth from charity meal carts and fleeting peace beneath a ramshackle tin roof on the curbside. Every promise of a resettlement program seems like an echo lost in a vast sea of effort, overwhelmed by resource constraints and administrative delays. They lack not only a roof over their heads, but the chance to start anew, lacking medical services, psychological support, and stable employment needed for reintegration. And New York, the city that never sleeps, still stands mute, watching those nameless shadows cling to every breath on the street. Although the neon lights of Times Square and the Manhattan skyscrapers never go dark, a silent crisis is bursting forth in the city's shadows. It is not merely a housing crisis, but a humanitarian challenge: how a wealthy society treats its own local citizens. The homeless, their anonymous silhouettes, scrape by day to day under flimsy tents or in the city's darkest alcoves. They cling to every breath, living moment to moment without a place to call home. New York, with all its glamour and vibrancy, is confronted with a heartbreaking reality. Its neon lights, symbols of wealth and prosperity, are just an outer shell. While all eyes gaze upon its skyscrapers, it is those dark corners that reveal most truthfully the price of its wealth and opportunities. The homeless are not part of the story of success or abundance. They are the forgotten shadows of this society, living in want and abandonment. When a society focuses too heavily on the symbols of success and material development, those impoverished and left behind expose the inequity within. The pressing question remains: how can a city as rich and developed as New York stand silently before such a humanitarian crisis? A society offering thousands of opportunities cannot continue to allow its own people to sink into darkness without genuine support. Each time the neon lights shine down Broadway, they also spotlight the darkness of poverty and injustice, an unavoidable reminder of the gap between outward opulence and the inner poverty of this city. Number 2. The story of a homeless person in New York. Amid the poetic setting of Red Hook Harbor, where tour boats glide like ribbons across the calm water, John, 47 years old, once a skilled construction worker, now clings to a fragile nylon tent. The sunset casts golden light onto the venerable red brick walls of the old warehouses, but the flimsy tarp sheltering him by the pier cannot keep him warm through the night. The cold sea breeze lashes his skin, reminding him of the steady footing he once had on the scaffolding. A year ago, a construction site accident robbed him of his ability to work. A spinal injury left him unable to handle a saw or chip concrete. The meager compensation he received was nowhere near enough to cover the ever-rising rent. Each morning, John wakes himself to the roaring symphony of freight trains thundering over the Brooklyn Bridge, an infernal concerto that won't let him sleep another minute. He hurriedly folds away his patched nylon tarp tent to make room for the next homeless family pitching their shelter beside his. The sizzle of hot soup from a charity food truck calls to him like an anguished invitation. John quietly lifts a spoonful of the savory broth to his lips, savors a piece of soft bread soaked with yeast, an improvised breakfast, but enough to fuel him before racing against time to seek day labor gigs at construction sites around the harbor. Odd-job masonry work is grueling but insufficient to sustain him. The cost of bus fare, a pack of instant noodles for lunch, a few cups of cheap street-side coffee, all amount to only a fraction of the $3,500 monthly rent for a cramped single room in a distant neighborhood. On scorching summer days, the temperature inside his tent becomes like a kiln, sweat soaking his clothes. In winter nights, the sea wind whistles through every opening, producing keening moans of despair. The gentle lapping of waves against the harbor sometimes stirs his longing for the peaceful evenings he once knew under a real roof, but now, only the briny air and faint laughter carried on the wind remain. Despite the dull, constant ache in his spine, John still clings to hope of visiting the mobile medical unit near the ferry terminal, where volunteer doctors set up camp weekly. Yet the waiting list is always full, and all he ever receives is an appointment slip for the end of the month. When he calls to schedule a mental health consultation, he only hears the hollow beat, "Please hold," and then silence. The free counseling services, meant to save his spirit, are likewise overwhelmed, causing him and many others to lose faith in timely support. He says the worst agony isn't the biting cold or the gnawing hunger, but the helplessness of having nowhere to heal both body and soul. John once dreamed of returning to build homes for others, but now he is the one yearning for shelter. He still harbors the aspiration to lift a wooden plank or swing a hammer again, so that his own home is no longer an unattainable dream. Amid a city glittering with lights and towering skyscrapers, John and the thousands like him persist in fighting not only to survive, but to be remembered as people full of dreams, souls worthy of care and opportunity. They need more than a nylon tent and a free meal. They need timely medical attention, stable employment opportunities, and a fair voice from the community, telling them, "You are not alone, and you deserve a greater chance." In such dire straits, every step John takes along the pier, every spoonful of soup he lifts, every time he clutches hope while searching for a warm blanket on a winter's night stands as testament to the extraordinary will of the human spirit. And amid the sea breeze rustled trees and the clamor of passing ships, one wonders, can we, with our small acts of kindness and compassion, pull him and countless lives like his out of darkness, so that New York truly leaves no one behind? A city known not just for its glittering promise of opportunity, but for its empathy, sharing, and responsibility toward its forgotten souls. Number 3. causes that perpetuate homelessness. When the first rays of morning sunlight pierce the shimmering silvery glass of One World Trade Center, New York appears as a radiant halo amid a concrete ocean. That glittering light, symbol of development and prosperity, stands in stark contrast to a harsh reality. Rent for an apartment in this city has surpassed $3,500 per month, a figure high enough to push anyone, even those with stable jobs, out of their nest at any moment. Imagine clutching an invoice printed with that soaring number, your warm breath fogging the paper as if begging those harsh digits to vanish, while the clock atop the tower drones an unsettling symphony, opulent splendor above and cold despair below. Rent is no longer a lifeless number, but a death ticket due at month's end. Whenever paychecks are deposited, many people discover they must spend over half their income on a cramped studio apartment, leaving only enough to cover bare necessities: electricity, water, transportation, and a few hurried cheap meals. For day laborers, short-term contract office workers, or young families, that pressure means perpetual risk of losing their homes. Many recount watching friends or colleagues burst into tears upon opening their bills, because just a few days late payment triggers the looming fear of eviction, of packing their belongings onto the sidewalk and enduring the city's biting chill and unrelenting noise. On paper, New York continuously promotes low-income housing projects. In reality, these resettlement developments spring up as slowly as tiny boats on an ocean of need. Each new project, even if heralded with fanfare, provides only a few hundred units, while thousands of applications for affordable housing keep piling up daily. As you thread through the alleys of Queens or the narrow lanes of the Bronx, the mingled stench of cement dust, exhaust fumes, and litter paints a suffocating portrait of scarcity. Young residents, factory workers, single-parent families must queue endlessly for application approval, waiting for newly completed buildings. But fortune only smiles on the lucky few. Many who finally receive keys have already forgotten what settled living feels like because the interminable waiting cycles force them back into tent encampments. Amid statistics and project maps, one often overlooked yet grave aspect is the mental health crisis. More than half of New York's unsheltered homeless population faces anxiety, depression, or even severe psychiatric disorders. In those simple nylon tents, the rain drumming on the roof sounds like an alarm bell, and each gust of wind slicing through layers of clothing reminds them relentlessly of their dire circumstances. Many recount sleepless nights, hearing their own hearts pound wildly in their chests as every rumble of a passing truck echoes their fear. Will they survive this night? The mental health support centers, once beacons of hope for shattered souls, are overwhelmed. Waiting lists for treatment are so long that many give up before ever setting foot in the office. When they call free counseling services, the promise to please hold drifts into silence. Some stand waiting at the door all day only to receive an appointment next month. This is no longer assistance, but a postponement of hope, draining faith in the chance for recovery. Three intertwined forces, escalating rents, a shortage of affordable housing, and a mental health crisis, bind people tightly within the homeless storm. As skyscrapers climb ever higher, the weary souls below struggle for each breath, yearning for a day they can declare, "I deserve to call this home." Some have reached maximum debt limits on their rent, some have lost their support applications, some have been crushed by successive traumas. And in that moment, amid the din of traffic and the chime of a distant temple bell in a narrow alley, we realize homelessness is not just a matter of shelter, but a profound test of our shared humanity. In a city that never sleeps, darkness is not always chased away by streetlights. The cold, hard figures on paper cannot convey the pain, the worry over food and shelter, the weary waiting outside locked doors. New York may proudly stand tall, but no step forward should forget to look down, to see and touch the lives struggling each day, not only to survive, but to affirm their right to a roof over their heads. Number 4. New York's efforts to address homelessness. When the city greets a new day amid blaring car horns and the heady aroma of freshly roasted coffee, the Housing First policy emerges like a life-saving breeze on the crisis front lines. Rather than forcing homeless individuals to complete months-long, risk-laden paperwork, Housing First places the house key on the table. First, this is your home. Within days of enrolling, participants are matched with a stable apartment, complete with a clear lease, and financial assistance to cover move-in costs such as security deposit and utility fees. Stepping across that threshold, their exhausted hearts soften. Home is no longer a distant prize, but the firm foundation upon which to rebuild their lives. As soon as they have permanent housing, participants move immediately into wraparound support programs. In cozy counseling rooms, drapes and soft pastel hues for privacy, they receive their first mental health session as soon as they formally move in. Far from the cold whiteness of a hospital, these spaces feature gentle pastel walls, plush armchairs, and serene artwork, helping clients to relax. Meanwhile, local community centers offer cooking classes, where volunteer chefs demonstrate basics from vegetable soup to nutritious sandwiches, and woodworking workshops, fostering community connection through the creation of simple wooden items. Job readiness training includes resume writing workshops, mock interviews led by speakers from partner companies, and even sessions on opening a bank account and budgeting to avoid future financial crises. In the bustling heart of Manhattan, the 30th Street shelter stands out as a true home away from home. Wide, bright corridors gleam under warm white LEDs. Spotless tile floors glisten with disinfectant. A subtle scent of soap lingers in the gender-segregated communal showers, bringing a sense of freshness after nights without a real bed. Each private sleeping cubicle is furnished with tidy bunk beds, a lockable storage locker, and a personal curtain, simple touches. Yet the luxury of privacy often brings people to tears, so profound is the feeling of respect. And every time a text alert pings to announce a newly available healthcare appointment, hope takes concrete form. It's your turn now. On site, mobile medical teams check blood pressure, treat chronic wounds, and fill prescriptions free of charge, thanks to volunteer pharmacists. Periodic vaccination clinics, basic dental checkups, and nutrition counseling are all scheduled regularly. Volunteers and employment counselors coach clients on resume writing, conduct mock interviews, and connect job seekers to local employers who need workers. In the cafeteria, bowls of rich corn chowder and freshly baked cookies create a warm, comforting atmosphere. The murmur of conversation and the aroma of spices help diners forget their hunger and focus instead on a meal seasoned with the flavor of renewed hope. Behind the scenes, the NYC Department of Homeless Services (DHS) operates as a massive coordination hub. It manages hundreds of shelters from the Bronx to Staten Island, ranging from simple wooden shacks to apartments converted from vacant offices. Each day, social workers and volunteers conduct inventory checks. Winter gloves, thin blankets, medical masks, lease paperwork, transit vouchers. An electronic case management system updates in real time to track bed availability and automatically alerts local centers when demand spikes. Yet tens of thousands of weekly requests strain these resources. Beds fill within hours. Hotline lines stay busy. Subsidy waiting lists stretch for months. Amid the clatter of keyboards and ringing phones in DHS offices, staff continually lobby city and federal budgets, partner with nonprofits to expand temporary housing, and negotiate with private landlords to lease more long-term supportive apartments. Despite ongoing challenges, these initiatives are rewriting the city's story. In its first year alone, Housing First housed over 10,000 previously homeless individuals. The 30th Street shelter provided more than 500 healthcare visits each month, and DHS connected hundreds of employers with job-seeking clients. Every apartment handed over, every medical appointment fulfilled, every caring check and builds a firmer stepping stone. Thanks to Housing First, people like John have found a warm home again. Thanks to the 30th Street shelter and DHS, wounded spirits like Sarah's are healing. And though the city that never sleeps continues to rise skyward, New York answers the question, what do we want? With action. Building a community that leaves no one behind. Every person, no matter their circumstance, deserves to call a place home. As dawn's light may shift, the first home created by Housing First remains ever bright, reminding us that before reaching for the stars, we must ensure no one is left in the dark. Number 5. The story of a homeless artist, Sarah, 31, was once a vibrant source of inspiration in the Manhattan galleries. Her reddish-brown hair would catch the gallery lights as she spoke passionately about the watercolor palettes, both gentle and compelling. Her oil-on-canvas works were displayed alongside those of renowned young artists, and every exhibition drew art lovers and the press alike. But then life's storm struck. Her father died young, her mother fell gravely ill, debts piled up, and her income from freelance contracts slowly dried up. When the eviction notice appeared neatly on the door of her old East Village apartment, Sarah was stunned. She hastily wrapped a few unframed paintings, piled her tubes of paint and brushes into a torn nylon tote, and closed that world behind her. Central Park became her temporary home. Beneath golden maple leaves drifting to the dew-damp grass, she spread a red tarp over the lawn. The quiet path near Sheep Meadow turned into her makeshift studio, where each brushstroke etched her homesickness, the white of her first snowfall on tiled roofs, the shimmering blue of the Hudson at sunset, the warm glow of Soho's streetlights. Her hands shivered in the chill wind, yet she found warmth in the volunteers-served lunch, a crisp roll and a steaming bowl of soup. Those simple gifts fueled her to stretch another canvas and paint the dream of a real home. Amid birdsong and passing footsteps, Sarah learned of the Rainbow Art Project, a program run by the local Coordination Center for Homeless Artists. She signed up and was given an easel, a wooden frame, and a corner to exhibit in the shared space. Through a large window overlooking the bustling street, her paintings were displayed with dignity. One canvas showed a boat adrift on a sea of clouds, evoking longing for freedom. Another captured the eyes of John, the homeless friend she met by the Red Hook Pier, shining with the desire to reclaim hope. Each piece not only displayed skilled technique but bore a heartfelt plea. We are here, and we are human. The simple opening night took place under warm yellow lights strung from handcrafted frames. Gentle drum beats from a wooden kit marked the start of a live performance. Sarah painted while narrating in a warm, resonant voice her journey through hardship. She described the feeling when brush meets canvas. That's when I pour in my pain, my longing, and my belief in tomorrow. Visitors paused to listen, their eyes softening as she whispered, "Even if storms erase our portraits, the colors of our hearts remain indelible." A few tears glistened on spectators' cheeks, and in that moment the invisible wall between the housed and the homeless trembled, giving way to genuine empathy. After the show, Sarah became an unofficial curator for other homeless artists. She held free painting classes right on her red tarp in the park, teaching how to use acrylics in place of oil paint and repurpose materials like newspaper and discarded wooden boards. Each afternoon, sunlight filtered through the trees. Children scampered by, occasionally picking up a brush themselves, turning that spot into an open-air art school. Beyond painting, Sarah wrote a blog about life on the streets, sharing tips on applying for grants, finding winter shelter, and most importantly, maintaining resilience. She connected with organizations like Project Home and Breaking Ground, sharing her work to raise funds for blankets and warm clothing for her peers. As a result, many homeless people in Midtown and Hell's Kitchen received timely assistance. Although she still lived among paper canvas tents and nylon bags, Sarah found an escape through art, not only for herself but for countless lost souls. In every brushstroke, she conveyed suffering yet ignited hope. Vibrant colors as promises of new dawns, gentle lines as hands ready to hold. Anyone passing by that makeshift gallery couldn't turn away. Her emotions and aspirations, conveyed through each frame, became a profound reminder of our shared humanity. And in the compassionate gaze of her audience, Sarah found the drive to continue painting the future. She said, "When you look at a painting, you don't just see colors, you see the artist's heart." In the city that never sleeps, Sarah and other homeless artists struggle not just to survive, but to create and to hope. Each brushstroke, each shared word, each community project helps dispel the darkness of homelessness, so that New York truly leaves no one behind. When you hear the figure 80,000 homeless people, it's easy to think of it as a faceless statistic. But behind each unit is a John, once steady on a scaffold, now curled up in a makeshift tent. And a Sarah, an artist carrying her soul and easel, seeking warmth in every brushstroke amid the cold winds of Central Park. They are not data, but hearts that feel pain and hope. Some stay awake at night waiting for a free meal, others swallow their loneliness to stand in long lines for a medical appointment. Those personal stories, from the swaying tents by the Red Hook Pier to the makeshift gallery in the Coordination Center, stand as vivid proof of the journey to overcome adversity, where hardship and the desire for change intertwine. They remind us that every name, every gaze, every breath deserves to be seen and honored. First, Our heartfelt thanks go to all the organizations, volunteers, and kind-hearted souls who have worked tirelessly amid life's rush. Every hot meal handed directly to someone shivering, every thin blanket draped over a trembling shoulder, sparks hope in the cold night. Laughter ringing out in a warm shelter room, a hurried handshake among people in line, all combine into a symphony of compassion, proving that our community stands shoulder to shoulder. Yet to eliminate the shadows of homelessness completely, we need more than isolated efforts. Please continue to support this channel by subscribing, liking, and sharing this video with friends and family, so that John's, Sarah's, and tens of thousands of other lives no longer echo in silence. Take one more step. Join blanket and winter supply drives. Volunteer at free meal kitchens, or write to local authorities urging increased funding for affordable housing and mental health services. Every share on social media, every small donation, every minute you spend listening will help bring these forgotten people back into the light of everyday life. Because sometimes, just one small action from us can change an entire life. If this story has touched your heart, please subscribe, like, and share this video to amplify the voices of those forgotten in the city that never sleeps. Each share you make is a small act, but it can ignite tremendous hope for those who fight day and night for a chance to live.